All right, traders, welcome to today's end of week market video for Friday, January 3rd. This concludes the first week of 2025, and a very nice way to end the week. Risk disclaimer in front of you: everything that we're going through is for information purposes only, not giving out any advice or recommendations. Please read the full risk disclaimer right there. So, taking a look, just a couple themes that second day in a row, I would say, of strong breadth. Right, that's something that was missing in terms of December, so it's nice to see that. A couple other things to kind of, so that, of course, you can see. We can talk about up volume, which I think today the up volume was up 67%. Right, so that's a good number. It was a good number yesterday too. And then, of course, just by looking by sector, just a lot more green, a lot more movement from open to close. So, hey, really kind of gave us a good trading environment the last couple days. So I'm very pleased with this. Also, I think when we look across and we look at not just the indices, but how the single stocks have been acting, I mean, there's a lot of places to kind of go right now that are showing some pretty good strength. So I'm going to start with a couple of those spots really quickly. I'm just going to review the indices like within hopefully like a minute. But the S&P, one of my complaints, right? I always have complaints, concerns, right? That's what it's all about, because we're risk managers, right? We're not just traders. We're also identifying where our risks are. We want to make sure that the indices are at least like holding a footing versus trending down, right? And again, this is just basic stuff, right? Breadth, right? If you have no edge at all, right? No edge to the stock market, right? And you look at how many names are advancing versus declining, right? You throw 10 darts, right? In terms of picking stocks, right? If there are 70% of stocks going down and only 30% going up, you're going to have a tougher time. Like if you're going long, those wherever those 10 dart picks are, right? If 70% of stocks are going down, right? That's just a more of a difficult environment. This is basic stuff. For some reason, I see people argue about this stuff, but and it's the same thing. When if we're in a stronger breadth environment like we were today, you could take those same stocks, those same darts that represent stocks, and if 70% of the if 70% of stocks are going up, you're going to have better numbers, right? That's just market dynamics. Now, that's when we're talking about no edge. Now, obviously, most traders think that they have an edge. I believe, I've have an edge, and that's something that I've been executing for a number of years. But we all want better environments, so that's why I always start with what the indices are doing. The S&P moving back towards the 50-day moving average. Again, not a lot of room to spare here, so we'll see what happens next week at that 50-day moving average, also at the bottom of the value area for the month, right? And that's at 590.13. Qs, also a little bit more leeway. Notice yesterday's price action explored, looked like it was almost a breakdown. I'm not sure if I would call that a false breakdown, but certainly breaking below the 50-day moving average intraday and then holding back in here. Now, is this chart anything to jump up and down again about? No, but I think that you've got a level to trade against there, which is the bottom of the value area. And if you want a little bit more room, you can use the 50-day moving average to keep things simple. IWM, I would say it's trying to carve out a bottom. Maybe you might have a W pattern shaping up here, right? This virgin point of control takeout, where it is a battleground of between buyers and sellers, right? The buyers kind of held in there. There was demand down here, and that's why we use these things, right? So that's as far as we went. We came down here and tested here, but here's your part of W, and maybe we can come back up here. I think that you're going to need bonds to help with that, right? At least like if bonds can stabilize. We haven't really seen that yet. Here's what TLT is doing. Note again, I see, for whatever reason, I see a lot of people thinking that they want to go long TLT. I don't, just because of a contrarian type play, just because they think it's gone down. I don't really understand that philosophy at all. It's nice to be a contrarian at some point, but for some things. But I always want to see price action confirm what my thoughts are, and I would watch 88.28. This is below the value area for the year. What is the value area for the year, right? Well, it's basically one standard deviation of all the activity from last year. So it's taking right? It's taking the volume profile and it's putting actual numbers behind it, right? So and you can have any types of shapes of these curves, and so again, this does not change shape because this is based on all of last year's activity, right? And that's why it becomes significant, right? So other people use these things where their value area is always changing. No, we use time frame to time frame for that. So yearly, when you're looking at the weekly chart, that's what we use. For the daily chart, that does change. It changes month to month. But again, these numbers don't change, right? Because this is all based on December's price action. And then what we want to see is basically, a movement out of range, right? Breakouts, also breakdowns to be able to short too, if you're doing that as well. So that has implications. That's why I spent a little bit more time, because I think that's the case there. Let's talk about it just, a couple different groups. And, this is something that also I tend to go over a little bit, just in terms of sector strength. Things kind of changed a little bit here. Take a look. You've got a couple things that are showing strength. What are those that are showing strength right now? The semis and the aerospace, right? So I'm going to look at both of these sectors. And, yesterday there was a lot more groups that were showing weakness. And the only way the way that I'm defining weakness is below the 520 and 50-day moving average. That's it, right? Strength is above all those short-term moving averages, the 520 and the 50, right? So it's a very, very simple technical screen. But look at SMH, right? First of all, we could look at the daily chart, but let's do this the right way, right? Take a look at the weekly chart. We're inside value. So while this is starting to lean to the upside, we're still inside value. You could also look at the XSD ETF, which I like this a little bit better. This is equally weighted, this semiconductors, rather than market cap weighted. This is above the value area. And I'm going to show you one other group too, which I find very interesting right now, which is aerospace and defense, right? So you might think, oh, aerospace and defense, Boeing, Lockheed Martin, Raytheon, things like that. Now they're in here, but this is also an equally weighted ETF. So take a look at what's this is very interesting. So when you look at so first we're gonna look at the current weightings of this, right? And first of all, you don't have a name that's over 5%, right? But it's Rocket Labs. Boeing is in here, 4.5%. AVAV, TTG, GE is in here. But if you look at the movers, right, and of course these are some smaller weights, but ACHR was up 20% today. I mean, these are big numbers for some of these smaller these smaller names. But this may be a better way to kind of play the group, considering the volatility in a Rocket Labs and a Lunar and an ACHR and a few others on this list too. So I like this way of, I like that this is above the value area for the year, right? And this is something to kind of that I will be looking at. Another name, outside of these, and there's a lot of things to kind of go over today, so I'm trying to keep today's video short. But look at the move in Rocket Labs. So number one, like I almost got stopped out in a trade yesterday, but I didn't, and it held where it needed to. It held above the 20-day moving average. I told members, I said, if it breaks the 20-day moving average at the end of the day, I'll be out of this name. But it didn't. It held exactly where it needed to. This is why technical analysis is kind of fun, because sometimes intraday things don't look so good, but this came back and held where it needed to. And I managed to get a 15% gainer out of this. Now, the second point is these things really move. You've got to have the right position size. There's a way that you can kind of, think about position size. You could look at the average true range, right? And figure that out and then divide by the stock price. That tells you how much the stock is going to move in a day. That can help you back into how many shares that you want to own in the stock, or how much notional size, shares times the stock price, right? And if you multiply that by the percentage change, it would tell you if you're comfortable with that change or not. So very different than owning something that has an average true range percentage of like 3 or 4%, meaning that's how much the stock moves a day, versus something like this that probably moves about 8 or 8 or 9% a day, right? Position size so important. So yeah, rocket, this is nice. Also, FTAI has been coming back. This also took back, it's the 50-day moving average today. Really excited about this because I still own a position in this. And I was debating whether to get out of this in our long-term trend portfolio, but gave it a little bit of chance. Was still above the 200-day moving average, but really like this thing has come back. That's a name that I'll be watching next week. GEV also sideways, sideways, sideways. It's leaning higher now. It broke through its value area for the month of January. Very nice. A few other names too, because obviously Nvidia got some attention today. That's great. I started a position today. It really hasn't done much for whatever reason. I saw people doing victory laps on this today. I don't know what people are really up to because it hasn't really moved that much. It doesn't matter if you got in yesterday or today or 2 days ago. From a technical standpoint, it's pretty darn sideways. Let's see if it can stick above 143.66, right? And this is great. It's great to see this climb back above, and we'll see if it continues to show market leadership. Not a big position for me, but I wanted to get involved in it. But there's so many other movers right now. Like I said, I'm just going to go through a couple on my spreadsheet. This is something, so a couple things that I do for members every weekend is I establish a watch list, right? That's what helped me get into CEG, which I think I talked about in yesterday's video, which again, tacked on more gains today. Really nice looking I'm going through the weekly charts here because we've got a new value area for the year, and CEG is back above. Also VST, which I did not trade VST, I just traded CEG, but VST had a heck of a day today, up 8.5%. So I think, that's another theme. So we've got, the aerospace, which kind of covers drones in there too. That's one theme. You've got the power theme that's still very strong, right? And then you also have Bitcoin, which that was one of the things yesterday, by the way, even though the market was kind of iffy, Bitcoin was pretty strong yesterday, right? It didn't show really any whippy weakness yesterday. So this is moving back up. This is back above its 50, back above its was this 20-day moving average, or right at its 20-day moving average. So this was very strong. And so you've got this group that's also showing some, again, we're just a couple days into the year, but just looking at some of these themes, I think quantum, even though quantum kind of sat the day out a little bit, I think quantum computing is still there. I'm still long Google as a play for that. Didn't have a huge day today. Is in the middle of its value area uh, for the month. So this one still has some work to do, right? But and then semiconductors too. So there are definite themes. You can add nuclear in there or uranium, even though those are kind of different stocks. But Oklo had a huge day, right? And then we're also seeing clean energy. So if we look at the performance for the week, and this is what I tally this up at the end of the week, right? You could see that a lot of energy did very well this week, right? Very quiet. I don't hear too many people talking about the crude. I put out the crude chart a couple times this week, right? And I think it's not getting much attention. Now, again, it's still a very sideways looking chart, but it's starting to make some waves. Now, I still think that the XOP, you could go through these charts, they're very sideways. OIH is another one, and of course XLE, but you could find some names in here that are acting a little bit better. And there's also clean energy is getting very interesting, right? I'm watching this IREN, which saw some option activity. I'll wait to see if it gets above 1146, right? This is what it looks like on the weekly chart, right? 1146. Again, it really depends on what you think. Like, I'm more of a trend trader, so I'm not just quickly looking for a turn. I'm looking for the trends to continue, right? And I want to be in winning trades, right? BE is another name too that's looking interesting too. So you've got some clean energy, which has been one of your worst performing sectors, showed some signs of life. Solar was up 2.2%. Now, again, could be a January effect thing there, but there's your performance for the week. Argentina, another trend that stays intact. ARGT, which look at this chart, really nice, and closed at a weekly new high. So incredibly nice. One of the things too, that really helped, I think the last couple days, I was off a couple days, I was off the beginning of this week, and I came back on Wednesday. And what I did is I went through all my existing open positions, charted them, put them out for members. Also, I think I put them on Substack too, and just went through to see like how are these things looking. And for the most part, they were holding up where they needed to be. So I didn't kind of, do any like, you know, rash trading where I said, hey, I'm going to take off all my positions. I went through and I actually, reinforced, where the stop prices are based on the new January valuaries. And, that really helped because those names really kind of, where I view market leadership kind of held up quite nice. Tesla, by the way, had a nice day today. Maybe a shakeout day. Right, here's what Tesla looks like. Here's your level to watch, 402, right? We were talking about this on pre-market prep, how it was kind of once it broke this 400 level, next thing you start looking down is around like 350. Doesn't mean it has to go there. If we could hold on to 402, right, then we're on to something. So that's definitely something to watch for next week. I'll leave it there, guys. But if you like that type of thing where we're going through all open positions, checking them, making sure that they look appropriately, look appropriate, making adjustments as we go along, check out TribecaTradeGroup.com. I think you'll be happy as a member there. We have a wonderful community too, who also comes up with tremendous ideas. But all we're doing is trading where the market is telling us there's strength. We're not doing anything like going out on a limb and trying to be somebody who's doesn't see it in the charts yet, but thinks that they're going to outsmart the market. No, we're following what the market is telling us to do, right? And we're making adjustments as we go along, and we want to be in the right. We want to have the best players on the field, right? The groups that are acting the best, right? Those are the ones who are going to be the stars. Those are going to win. They're going to win the games for us, which I refer to. My analogy there is, month after we're trying to win 1 month at a time, right? In terms of making money, right, and doing it in a risk adjusted format. Guys, have a great weekend and look forward to trading with you guys on Monday.